This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good afternoon. This is UIN01's 2019 facility plan with the State Construction Department. We'll introduce ourselves first.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Raj, and I'm the AIM assistant and accounting analyst here, and I basically help these guys out with whatever they need from the AIM database.
Good afternoon, Brandon Finney with the State Construction Department. My role with this team is to work through the facility planning process. We identify all the capital construction needs, and we work with the districts and our staff, and we present them to legislative bodies in anticipation for an appropriation.
Troy Decker Planning, my responsibility is make sure we abide by all state statutes, rules, and regs in the facility planning process. Make sure we have processes in place that our data is accurate and most up to date so that we can have accurate reports to the select committee and the commission. And then also just to make sure that we have a clear communication process with the districts and ourselves and let everybody have voice. Also part of a budget team that helps prepare the budgets for commission and legislative consideration.
Amber Leach, Policy Planning Coordinator, and my role during this is to work with the district on the documentation for today's facility plan.
Hi, I'm Paul Severson. My title is Design and Construction Administrator, and what I do for the department and representing here is I offer leadership, calibration, and coordination between the project managers. And the reason we do that is so that we can have as consistent a service to all districts across the state.
Lance Johnson, School Facilities Project Manager. I work directly with the districts.
Ryan Thomas, Superintendent of Schools. My job is to make sure UIN County School District functions appropriately and we stay in business.
Julie Cook, I'm with UIN01, the Administrative Assistant for the Facilities Department.
John Davis, Director of Maintenance, UIN County School District number 1.
Jaron Dennis, Facilities Director for UIN County School District number 1.
And that's it, Troy.
So no, Sheree Dunford isn't there?
Sherry is not, no.
Sherry, sorry.
And then Austin.
And then Austin?
Nope.
All right. Okay. All right. I think we've got everybody on our end. So thank you for joining this afternoon, and we're going to roll right through this. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the camera now and make sure we don't have streaming issues. A couple things. Every once in a while, we have the governor's office ask for a facility plan, maybe an individual or two legislators here and there. So we've kind of made these so that if someone in government wants to look at your facility plan and make sure they know what's going on, they can figure that out in about 10 minutes. It doesn't take them long. We've made these very visual. The other thing we're experiencing across the state is obviously every year is changeover of staff personnel at districts. So this is just a great continuum of information. It allows new people within districts taking new positions come in and kind of have a good understanding of the history of what's been going on in facilities and then help them into the future.
I'm going to point out the date and time is incorrect.
Well, look at that. Sure enough.
Not the
no,
top
go down.
one. Down.
That one there.
No.
No.
Next one.
Oh.
Today is the
It's 28.
Okay, third time's a charm.
28th at 1 o'clock.
Good catch, Paul. All right, starting down through this, tracks and deeds. We have some visuals here just for illustrative purposes. And the district has reviewed acreages and verifies accuracy. This is important for your, because it does affect your block grant payment for groundskeepers. So thanks for doing that. That's important. I don't think we have anything else there. Maybe looking, okay, so, and I think later on you guys are, right here, it looks like you guys are interested in acquiring land across the street from the Clark Elementary for possible parking and bus lane. All right, so where's our Clark at here, guys? Right there. Okay, so there we go. Which way from the school are you looking at?
Right where you have your pointer.
That's
Right
a
here?
large, that's a church. And that is going to be demolished, we think. So that would be something we'd be looking at to acquire that property there.
Okay, gotcha.
Once the building's scraped,
Say that again,
What's
Brian.
that?
after the building is demolished or before or
After.
after? Okay. What kind of dollar amount you looking at? Just ballpark.
We don't even know. It'll be hard to guess. I'm sure they're probably gonna, look at that. There's potential of 4 lots there, probably, $40,000 a lot. So, but we might be able to get a better deal. It's hard to tell.
Okay.
We just know that that'll be coming up, and so we just wanted to kind of put that on the radar, whether that'll be 2020 or 2021, as something to look for, because we do have a need in just parent parking and stuff like that. When they have an event, there's just not any parking.
Okay,
Still loading out
Oh.
in the alley.
potential land disposition. I'll just put that.
Yeah.
We probably should take a look at counting their parking available versus the standard and see where they are.
Okay, well, I've done that. Good job, Paul.
Oh, there we go.
So you guys have, as of October 1 of this year, 223 students. That qualifies you for 2 acres above the 4, which is the base area. So 6.23. Your site is 5.64. When I subtracted that, you guys are 0.59 acres short of design guidelines. That doesn't mean that we do have by the way, a land opportunity fund. I think we have still $750,000 in there.
Yep.
So you guys are more than welcome to ask, come to the commission and ask for to be put on an agenda as an action item and request some money. We have to do, I suppose we'd have to do some kind of due diligence first, and then if they approve that, then you'd go out and do all that you need to, and then you'd bring it back in front of the commission for a consideration of approval for the actual purchase itself after due diligence is complete.
So when would we want to go before the commission on that? I mean, naturally, they're still using that building. We don't know when it's going to be. They'll be into the new building, this summer. And then, I'm sure they've got to go through some processes of tearing that building down. So when's the first opportunity we should go before the commission?
Well, I think that, and Brandon can chime in here or anybody else, but I think, have you guys been actually talking with them and informal communication?
I've had some informal communication.
Okay. So I think one of the first things you'd probably want to do is get an MOU.
Yeah, so there's
And you can get an MOU almost anytime as you're moving forward with them. But I would say once you lock in an MOU and they have a sincere interest and everybody's willing to sign that as an intent to sell, as long as the money's come through the state, you can kind of lock that in with the church, and then you can move forward with requesting due diligence. Now, obviously, you don't want to request due diligence monies, 3 years in advance or 2 years or something. But as that time approaches and they're getting ready, I think you guys could go ahead and then request your due diligence funds for purchase of that. Lance, or Brandon, any further thoughts there?
the only thought is, so they're moving out in June, July?
Yeah.
So they have a new facility? And
they've got a new facility they're building up by the high school. I anticipate they'll want to probably start the tear down of that building August, September.
Okay. So yeah,
Well,
go ahead, Lance.
well, the only thing that I would be a little concerned about is just to make sure that the demolition, it's complete demolition, cleared cleared site and appropriate fill brought back into the hole. So we don't have to go and do a bunch of over-Xing if you guys decide to do a parking lot and have to pay for that twice. So that'd be something I would just make sure that you probably would be in your best interest to have it in the MOU.
Yeah.
The biggest reason was just helping us kind of know the process and procedure, and that's why we wanted to put that on our plan. So the one, you guys are aware of it, and two, we would know kind of the steps that we needed to take to further this process.
You know, and if we have to have a phase 1 environmental done with some drilling, looking for old gas stations or whatever, you know, on that site, it'd probably be the best to have after the building was demolished right there. But, you know, we certainly could probably work around the building if we had to, I suppose, if timing was pushing that. But
let me just start it with them and just kind of
yeah.
make sure.
I think if you express we're interested, that would be a good start.
They know we've got an interest in
Yeah.
it, and they were hoping that the school might want it because it.
okay.
But I like to start with kind of an MOU. See how it goes.
Something like that. What do you guys think?
Yep.
Okay. That's exciting opportunity, and I know it's going to be more than this 0.59 acres, and that's okay. I mean, you know, I'm sure we don't expect you to hit that guideline exactly. A lot of sites do exceed that, but you just bring forth your justification and stuff. So once again, if I recall right up here, you were basically talking about for possible parking and bus lane. So let's talk about money for a moment. Where would that money come for the bus lane and parking? Because on the budget team, we're always thinking equitability. How can you get monies? How can you justify and prioritize that request?
That was my question. So we can buy it. We have money for that based upon the justification of acreage deficit. But what's your thoughts on funds to build it out once you acquire the property?
You've made your maintenance.
Yeah, I'm sure Lance will prove that in a moment.
He's been taunting me all morning. I had other meetings with him this morning too, and I'm worn out.
We recognize that we'll probably have to go before the board to talk about this and look at some district funding or reserve funding to further develop that property with that parking lot or bus lane and kind of see.
So
it would also make sense. Yeah. It also makes sense, and we're going to have to visit with the city because you'll notice that a city street divides that.
Yeah.
You know, do we close that portion of the street again? You know, so there's some things that we're going to definitely need to do to make that usable.
Makes sense.
We struggled to get that other portion vacated on the east side.
Yeah.
That was a lot of work.
It was.
Or to utilize district resources.
But we've got new blood in there now with Barker.
District. No.
And it's dead end.
Yeah.
So it's not like a big street.
And what'd you say again?
District may be exploring utilizing district reserve funds.
And then the church here, just close that street and that street.
What's this at?
Take that triangular piece right through those two holes, right across the corner.
Yeah.
I think that's proper. No one's right in front of our school.
Well, and you could actually take the alleyway.
Okay.
Take those two houses right there.
Okay, down to property profiles now. So thanks, guys. That was good discussion, and appreciate the clarification on the land purchase, potential land purchase, and certainly do support you in your interest. And we do have an land opportunity fund for a reason, and I think it's a good opportunity for you guys to at least request and see what the commission says. So property profiles, you've reviewed those, reported their accuracy. Square footages do impact major maintenance because allowable square footage does have an impact on how much major maintenance you get. And then, of course, WDE operations and maintenance payments also come from this data source. So we obviously send this over to WDE and they use it, they verify it. I'm sure they work with you guys on that as well. And then, of course, we go through this whole process every year of verifying this as best we can. Not to say there may not be some changes, but anyway, and they send over to us ADM and enrollment each year as well that we use for calculating capacity and generating major maintenance payments. So no enhancements, no building leases, good there. So district looking to add, okay, let's talk about this one next. You're looking to add soccer fields with track improvement at the middle school. District would like to discuss how to add these amenities and if they have to be an enhancement or they can be considered as part of the program. So guys, I kind of prepared a response here, and staff and district, please weigh in, Lance particularly. I said facilities and sites were grandfathered into the district inventory at the inception of the SFC. Since then, capital funding requests are determined according to SFC rules and regulations, as identified below in the biennial budget request section. Adding non-pre-existing elements to the sports field can be addressed with capital funds when a major capital remedy driven by a statewide building list is appropriated funds through the legislature. Major maintenance can be used on qualifying components related to the track when approved by the SCDPM. Enhancements are those things paid for by the district that exceed the statewide adequacy standards. That was my shot at it. What do you guys think? And let's discuss it.
What we have is a situation where we have a tremendous amount of middle school students wanting to be involved in track, and the surface that we have there that you're looking at, it's just way inadequate. So the kids have to walk up to the high school, which is through a couple of dangerous intersections, and that impacts the high school. And it's really a situation where, you know, the kids are driving this. It's so many kids just want to be in track.
We have over 200 between EMS and DMS. Right now, they share that EMS field. So we only have the one track facility. It does not have any throwing spaces or spaces for long jump.
High jump.
Yeah, high jump. Any of those field events, there's no, they have not been put in there. They were actually removed so we could play soccer on the field.
They were in, and we took them out so it would make it a slightly larger soccer field. But I'm having a design team put in the full size of a soccer field, plus the running lanes, plus the throwing areas, and just make it a more usable, acceptable space. It's quite an eyesore right now because it's just not maintained the way it should be.
So it's on the EMS?
Yeah, so you're talking EMS, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so let's go back into that for a second. So kind of describe that again. Where would this be?
Okay,
I mean, go ahead.
As you're looking at the football oval, and you do see a track that goes around it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's just asphalt. That's not really a track surface.
Okay.
And so, and if you look at the ground around it, it's all just barren stuff. There's no really landscaping or anything.
Almost looks like a desert.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Hey, doesn't look like a desert today, I'll tell you that. It's more covered with white snow than anything.
Okay.
So what we'd like to do is make that a soccer field, plus at the same time enhance the track facility.
Gotcha. So instead of asphalt, turn it into a real track.
Yeah.
Turn it into a real track with starting lanes on, on both corners, throwing area. We're going to move the bleachers that you can see right there by your deal. They're going to move to the other side where there's a pad. Yep. And that's a concession stand off to the right and a locker room that we've already put in.
Over there.
No, back there where the light
room,
right there. We've already done that. That we're using as a concession stand and a locker room.
That little shed that you had your hand on, that's actually the city's pump house.
For the ball fields to your lower left.
Okay.
So that's not ours, yeah.
Yeah, those aren't ours.
Yeah, this is your property line here.
Well, actually, it goes at a diagonal right through that center field of the main lot.
Right there?
Just
Yeah,
like that.
just like
That's pretty
that.
close. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Okay. Okay, so,
So funds.
yeah, Lance, so talk to us a little bit. I made a general statement here, but, so
Lance got
Lance,
a phone
come
call.
up with the money.
Yeah.
Well, as I stated before, we did have the running lanes in there. They kind of fell apart, so they took them out to make it a soccer field. So I'm thinking, we may be able to just say we want to replace these.
The field event stuff.
For the field events. And I'm having a design where they'd be the running lanes, or not the running lanes for the long jump, pole vault, things like that. And they would be on the outside of the track, not the inside as they are now. And actually that area is sunken. It's supposed to be a retention pond, but it's never really fulfilled that use. And I've had a couple of engineers looking at it, and I've even looked at, I'd like this to be a, synthetic turf field instead of grass. And I know that's quite a reach, but by the time we deal with all the snow we have here every winter, that field is useless until the 1st of June.
Yep.
And that is our competition soccer field for the high school.
Yeah, I can see you got all kinds of soccer players out there today on this picture.
Yeah, they were having a camp or something when that was taken.
Huh.
The problem that's created because of the center of the field is sunken, we can't have a regular sized, official sized soccer field. So if we do something with that to make it regulation and then a track around it, it'll take some effort.
Right. So we don't foresee right now any major capital funds available. So there again, and correct me PMs if I'm wrong, but it wasn't too many years ago where the commission has allowed tracks, regular major maintenance to be spent on tracks.
Correct.
Because there's an existing function there.
Yep.
So they could use it to replace it.
Yes. And it has an academic function. They count how many they count as they go around the track. One. Anyway.
So one source of funds would be major maintenance.
Okay.
So yeah, regular major maintenance, 10% major maintenance, right? Can be used.
That's what I was always thinking, yes, the 10%.
But you're saying that we could use even above and beyond the 10%?
Yes, because that's what we did at the track.
Yeah, the whole track can be done with regular major maintenance.
Okay.
Rec mill, if you have some.
Rec mill, 10% major maintenance. But yeah, again, we don't have any capital funding mechanism by which to fund that.
And major maintenance can fix what you have, but it can't change what you have.
Yes.
So that's about it on our part, unless Lance or Paul can think of anything else. I can't.
The one we keep hearing about is rec mill all the time. Districts they use rec mill on their athletic facilities, and we don't really have a true understanding of that mechanism. All we know is we just keep hearing it over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you guys and I think that's pretty well. Isn't usually the majority of members of the rec mill off of the school district or from the school district?
Our BOCES has a rec board. Roughly, I think it's 50% of the board members are representatives of the school district. They're not necessarily our board members. But
Okay.
that rec mill actually runs the rec center in town and would not be available unless something drastic happens. Like right now, our evaluation is so low; it's only about $275,000 anyway for one mill.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically it's hands off. That goes to the city, the rec center, and without that, they would dry up and blow away. So I don't see that changing in our community. Other communities where the tax base is a little higher, they have more flexibility than we do.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think we've said about as much as we can on that one then.
Okay.
We would be okay to bond for that, and wouldn't be creating any issues in that regard, right?
No, there are allowances where the district can conduct a bond issue if they desire.
Okay.
So would that in the future be considered an enhancement or part of our square footage allotment?
Enhancement.
It depends on whether it meets adequacy standards.
Okay.
So I guess let's talk about that. I mean, if we put back in the running part of the track as far as, long
Sprints
and
distance.
the oval or the rings for shot put and discus and all those things that used to be there. If we bond that, then if we have issues later, would that be again 10%, or would that be part of the regular major maintenance because it's now a certified running track again?
Unless accepted by the commission as essentially your part of your base facilities, it would be an enhancement. We've been having more and more talk about people constructing their facilities and bringing them forward to the commission and asking for them to be determined to be adequate facilities and part of the state inventory. It hasn't happened yet. We don't know how it would happen. We've just been hearing about it. So, I can't tell you there's a path that would assure that would be the case, but we just know others are talking about it.
Okay, wouldn't it also probably help our case in that 2 middle schools share that one field?
I don't know. I don't think tracks are even a middle school adequacy requirement. They're high school requirement, aren't they?
Well, we have middle school track.
Well, that's another question I have is at what point does the Wyoming high school athletic, they seem to mandate quite a bit that we have to put in place for competitions and for activities to take place. And they don't seem to ever have a conversation with the department and never have a conversation with districts. They just basically say, hey, this is a new mandate and this is the way it's got to be and you've got to have that in place.
Right.
Sorry guys, I was on the phone with Dell and had to step out. But I just got back and and I probably missed the discussion, but middle school tracks aren't in our guidelines. Did you guys already talk about that?
Yeah, just now.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. So the chances of it ever being brought into your adequacy standard are probably not real good, unless you can convince the commission to change the adequacy standards, of which I don't know that they've really got the ability to do that. I think that's more the legislature's responsibility.
So, since that's our high school soccer field, does that make it part of the adequacy standards?
Since the
You-
high school.
Yeah, but they get funded, you get funded for one field, and whether it serves a single or a dual purpose, you get funded for one. So
Okay.
if you've got a high school field, more than likely that's your adequacy. If you want a secondary one for another sport, that's probably outside of the adequacy standard.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, I guess the question, does the Wyoming High School Athletics Association ever come and talk to you guys?
Not since I've been here.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's interesting the things they throw at you. I mean, and they're not simple things, and they're not always, inexpensive, and they relate directly to facilities, and oftentimes create enhancements to facilities due to their regulatory expectations.
Right, and those standards are to hold official meets, correct? I mean, they don't prevent you from using it, even for any track meets. You just can't run an official meet on that track if it's not according to their standards. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that goes whether it be a track, a pool, anything. It's interesting.
Yeah.
They sometimes think that they're the professionals, and we've got to have the same exact equipment and designs and.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they get influenced by the national association that they belong to, and a lot of times what they're doing is attempting to try to keep up with other jurisdictions across the country. Well, we know in Texas, they'll build an $80 million football field for a high school. I don't think there's much chance you're going to find that in Wyoming.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You guys are going to have to settle for the $20 million field.
I was gonna
Hey,
say,
I'll take 20 million. You told me, okay.
we're not asking for much. We just want the same thing that Kelly Walsh and the Trona have. We'll be good with that.
Well, you guys aren't expecting much then. Okay, guys. All right. Well, we didn't have any answers for additional funds for you, and but we recognize your issue, and it's a valid issue, and you got two middle schools going there, and I think it's a great opportunity for you guys if you can come up with the monies to make that what you need it to be for the sports facility that you believe would be appropriate for student population and to host meets and to really have a nice facility that people can come to. And I think it could be profitable for everybody.
Okay. Appreciate you helping us, and at least you're kind of aware of kind of what we're trying to do and meet for our students.
Sure. All right, appropriations. It looks like we have one, Evanston Middle School. I know you guys have been talking what's going on here, but I guess Lance or anybody else can take the lead on this.
Lance, go ahead.
Yep. Okay.
Tell us where we're at.
Yep, I put together a simple budget sheet the other day. Brandon and I met on this yesterday morning to look for the available 2013-14 unanticipated funds. It looks like there will be some of those available. I met with the district this morning, went over the budget sheet. We got a game plan and a schedule for bidding the project. We've got a designer on board, and he's going to be getting the bid docs ready. We'll be getting it out to bid by the end of next week and opening bids on April 30th, and have hard numbers for Brandon to put to go with his budget sheet to take to the commission. Julie will also notify Shelley with a request to be put on the agenda, so we'll get that placeholder going there. So right now, just pushing through to get everything going within the bids, the pre-bid walk, the addenda's out, and also just have a bid opening and get some good numbers.
Lance, for what I have to do complete is the summary sheet, and I'll share that with you, and then we'll have everything ready to go except the number.
Yep.
So is that unspent funds?
It is.
Okay.
So we're going to use that in addition to unanticipated, but we don't want to go to the commission without a number. So they've got a packet going on the street. We'll have a real number. we say we need X dollars. We move that money from unanticipated into this checkbook, and then Lance gets to do it now, and off the project goes.
Yeah, right now, just tentatively, Brandon, just so you know too, that I modified our sheet and added some owner's overhead for advertising in there, but because we got to get rolling. But anyway, that's where we're at.
All right, great. I'm glad there's money there. That's wonderful.
No kidding.
Hey, security, Lance.
Favor to us.
Thank you, Brandon, for that, and
And
for your
Lance
help.
for helping us with that, because we've been really struggling the last couple of weeks how we're gonna make this school dry.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
I think we got a good plan.
What's that?
I think we got a good plan.
Yep, okay. Okay, as far as security goes, I've been working with the district on a few of their security projects. They've gone through and created or taken care of some secured vestibules. You're aware that of how to move money from one element to another with the request, and that those elements won't be back funded if you move money from one to the other. But there may be another opportunity for that with the new $4.9 million money that is out there this year. And Paul has been working with administration and getting some guidelines or actually proposing some direction on how to spend that and to be able to use that money for all 20 elements. And Paul, if you want to go ahead and go into a little more detail with that, that'd be great.
We will be meeting and talking with the commission about this in May. We've had some informal discussions with some individual commissioners. It would sound like they are currently in favor of expanding to the full top 20 items, but it would appear that their intent is to start with the highest priority, which on this list would be number 1, and go down to the lowest priority. And so they are intending that the district resolve all of their high priority items before they move down the list. We're not exactly sure how that would be structured or how that would work, but that is the input that we've received from them so far. We will bring forward a methodology that would give the districts an opportunity to request to perhaps either bypass or maybe some of the items have already been taken care of so that they can do other items down the list further. And that's what we will be talking with the commission about in May in Buffalo. And so I would encourage, if the district has the ability to be in attendance, I think their voice could be valuable in letting the commission know what districts are interested in doing with the funds. We would anticipate, it's always possible they could create a motion and act at May, but we're guessing that that will probably be the next commission meeting before there'd be an actual action. And so we're anticipating that's when the 4.9 would probably be available for districts to start expending those monies. But again, I encourage the district to add their voice in May in regard to their preferences on how to allow the expenditure on these funds. And the reason that the priority issue came up is because actually the legislation indicates that the highest priority items should be resolved first. And so they're trying to determine how to best do that.
So that'll be good, and we'll definitely come and then put in our 2.5 cents.
So also you're aware that the last couple previous legislative sessions, you were allowed to use up to 10% of your major maintenance money for security projects, and they also approved that this legislative session. So you do have an additional up to 10% of your major maintenance to use for that. And going forward, we'll have to keep an eye on the balance of that 10% money, because in the future it may not be still out there to use that, and we don't want to go into the negative in that pot. We don't know how that, we would reimburse that. So anyway, we'll be checking that as we go. Also, I'm aware you guys have been to, and your people have been to, a lot of the security conferences that we've had, and we're going to continue having that. And Paul's working with the WD right now to work on another one this fall. If you want to go into some detail on that, Paul.
Yeah, currently we're looking at September 30th as the tentative date, and that would be in Laramie at the Gateway Center at the university. We have not solidified exactly what the agenda would be, but the concept is that we'd be tying together with the superintendent of schools S5S conference that she's basically been having since she was elected to office, and we would have our section of the conference on the 30th, and the superintendent's program would be on the 1st and 2nd of October. We will be meeting with WDE in 3 weeks to see if we can solidify that. This morning I told the district to be 2 weeks. Well, another week is already added onto it since before noon. So we're working on that, but September 30 is the target date. And we apologize for any hunters that it may affect.
Well, you should be tagged out by the 1st anyway, so. And I just have one more point here on additional funding that may be through Homeland Security or Department of Justice. They have grants available out there too if you want to check into additional funding. So, with that, Troy, that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. So capacity, you do have like your Clark Elementary School, which is a K-5, about 98% there. So that's pushing the limits. But you also have 2 other K-5s that have more room than that. But you guys are filling them up. Not a capacity issue, as in needing funds to expand yet. But something to be mindful of in the future if you continue to grow or if you grow. The other buildings look really good. So with regard to your projections, just to make sure everybody knows, it's we get WDE numbers, enrollment reported by you guys on October 1 of this last year for K through 12. We populate this projection sheet. We look at 10 years of trailing data as what we then use to project out. These projections are only used when capital funding recommendations come through and are appropriated or are recommended for appropriation. And obviously, the farther out you get from the actual data as you move into the future, the more theoretical it becomes on those numbers themselves. So how this does work, though, you guys, which is kind of interesting, last year you had 2 years ago, you had quite the dip in kindergarten, but boy, that was really interesting. Was that just a birth rate thing, you guys think? That 196 in 2017?
We have no idea. It shocked us too. So I guess that's all it can be. Is we anticipate a similar number to the 252 this year also. Okay,
great. So how these survival rates work is like your 2008 kindergarten events, 2009 first grade, 2009 kindergarten, 2010 first grade. We take 10 years of that trailing data, we average it, and then we show, like for you guys, on average in the last 10 years, 95% of your kindergartners advanced to first grade. Do you guys have some kind of a program where if they're not developmentally ready, you hold them back another year?
Yeah, we have a few students that are retained.
Okay, gotcha. But at any rate, each year it looks like you, through 8th grade, looks like you're just losing just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 students a year, but not dramatic, just you're not getting 100% of growth until your freshman year, which is kind of interesting. Is that maybe when, or I can't remember, you guys don't have any rural schools, do you?
No.
Oh, okay. I wonder why you're getting that increase at 9th grade.
Well, possibly, and I don't know how they're calculated, is we do have students that if they don't attain enough classes, they'd be retained at the freshman level. So they aren't necessarily retained, they're just considered freshmen. So they've lengthened their potential to graduate to a 5-year program.
Interesting. Okay, gotcha.
That makes sense.
That's interesting. I haven't seen that number. Because
Yeah.
we do a lot of kids at freshman level.
Yeah, and then it looks like you've got quite the loss of students between your freshman and sophomore year and junior year, and then you increase back up to 98, well, not increase, but you have less of a loss in your senior year.
Yeah, that's probably how they're classified based on credits.
Okay. All right. So overall, you guys, I don't know, you seem to be, you were in the 800s for quite a long time. You're now in the 700s, and not dramatic decreases, but certainly a slow, well, actually, when you look over the last 4 years, it's been pretty consistent. You guys have kind of leveled off and kind of hang around that 750 number for, let's see, I think that's your high school. Yeah. Yeah. And then right here, of course, you guys have, it looks like because of that bumper crop in kindergarten, you guys kind of peaked up quite a bit district-wide.
Yes.
Okay. Nothing to be concerned about, but certainly something to keep our eyes on. So statewide, we do have a statewide capacity list. This high, medium, and low capacity categories are actually driven by SFC rules and regulations. Last year, early in the year, the commission changed their capacity methodology for up to 25 students in a room for K3. They got a lot of pushback from districts, so they reneged that and came back to 16 restricted capacity for K3. So what happened was a year ago, there was only like one school, I think, elementary school up in this high capacity. Now there's a bunch. And then Natrona, however, they're only using X number of schools. They actually mothballed 4 schools. They pushed all the elementary students into the other schools, and so they're about 300 seats shy according to the capacity methodology. But obviously, they have 900 seats sitting out there plus in these schools that are closed. So they've got some non-construction alternatives. But you guys are not up there at this point. You guys do not have a charter school, so we don't need to discuss that. Facility condition, basically, and we all know, you use preventive maintenance, routine maintenance to take care of buildings throughout their lifetime. Major maintenance is an important part. There's no longer a phase-in period for new schools, new buildings, so you get 100% of major maintenance based on your ADM, so that helps. But major maintenance, of course, is used as the building gets older, and then at some point in a building's history, you need some major capital infusion of monies in order to take care of the deferred maintenance. Here is just how the facility condition FCI scores are calculated. And then this is just page 1 of many pages. There's 450 or so education buildings in the state. And you can see the higher the FCI score on this list, the more deferred maintenance is percentage-wise is correlative to that building condition. You guys don't have anything up in this top first page. Support buildings, state law requires the commission to prioritize education buildings first and foremost. And so ancillary buildings are not a high priority. We don't know when the next time will be for ancillary buildings to receive major capital funds, but take care of your major maintenance, I guess, is our story right now for you. Here's your building list for educational buildings just in and of itself. Your buildings are in excellent condition, very good condition, and so are your ancillary buildings. So no huge concerns at the moment. We just said that your buildings are in relatively good condition at the moment. Major maintenance, we asked you to update your work order statuses each year. Keep that database clean and up to date, so appreciate that. And then obviously you know who you're submitting your work orders through, Lance, and he approves them according to the definition of state statute. And then you guys have the freedom also when things pop up and they're not in the facility plan or not before the facility plan, to go through lands for that approval as well in consideration. Your 680 report, you have your 10% money, so that's kind of good if you're thinking about doing something on the track and or increasing the middle school sports field, and as long as it qualifies, those enhancement funds can do a lot, help with a lot that wouldn't regularly receive or be able to be qualify for regular major maintenance. Here's last year's priorities from highest expenditure to lowest, and then a breakdown right here per building of what those priorities were. This is just illustrative in your facility plan. You don't have to defend it or anything like that. We're just happy to show it and see what's going on there. You do have some low condition scores. Every year we have individual legislators during committee meetings ask if districts are spending money on their highest needs, lowest scores, and we don't speak on behalf of school districts. What we do is let you speak for yourself, so that if a legislature comes and asks for, I want to see how UIN01 spends their money and are they addressing these, you guys have basically filled out the status column, which is fine. You can also do district notes, but just know that if anybody ever asks you about at the legislative level what you're doing, we'll just hand them this and let you guys speak on your own behalf.
Hey, really quickly, while you're in there, is that just a snapshot, or can you fix something?
That's an image, so no, we can't fix it. What's up?
Julie sent it to Amber, so I'm sure it'll be taken care of. We were just noticing exterior windows at UIN Meadows. It said to be completed in 2 years. That was completed last summer, so.
I can change it.
Okay, she will change that and insert the new updated one.
Thank you.
So you'll change it and then do it. Okay.
You're just gonna owe me.
Checks in the mail.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry, we all owe her. No,
Thank you.
okay, statewide condition assessment. Every 4 years, state statute requires us to do one. We hire an independent consultant to do so. They are required by state statute to go on site and do it on site. We can't do a desk audit or some crazy thing like that from a corner office and in the building or something like that here. So that's coming up here then. In the fall, we're going to do the scope, hire a consultant. In about April, this is just a back date, but it won't be April 1st, but we'll let you know. We'll communicate with you. We are asking districts, a district representative, the person who's going to walk side by side with these assessors when they show up on site. We're asking that person to show up in Casper for a 4-hour training time to go over the tool, discuss the tool itself, how it's scored, its importance, and your important role within that assessment process. And then the only other thing we'll talk about is it's just impossible for us within a reasonable dollar amount to get all the assessment done over 500 buildings in 2.5 months in the summer. So we will start in the spring before school lets out. We'll go into the fall, and the assessors are trained to not interrupt the educational environment or the least amount possible. So just let you know we're going to have to do that just in realism. You guys did submit some component projects. One of yours, congratulations, was ranked number 3. That's a $2.7 million domestic water system at Evanston High School. So obviously, and then you got one down here, 17, one down here at 29. There were a total of 31 requests at 39 million. On average, 5 or 6 million a year. So if the commission so deems it desirous, they could approve, maybe 1 through 4 or something potentially, and you guys would be covered for that 2.7. So hopefully that'll work out for you guys, and we don't know if that will, but it looks good for you at least on that 3 position as a possibility for funding this next biennium.
What's that?
When would that happen?
And that gets approved in July, is that right?
March.
Okay.
No, well,
July of 2020.
1 or 2020.
July of 2020.
Yep.
So we'll be talking to the commission in July of UIN19 about this list, so I want to attend that meeting as well.
And Brandon, just for clarification here too, that let's just say that they're going to fund down 4 projects. The district would be eligible for the 2.7 million in legislation in 2020. But do they oftentimes immediately fund component projects so they can get rolling on it next summer?
They do, yep.
Okay.
So that's some of our discussions, and with the select committee, that's where there and that joint appropriations committee are the 2 levels that really starts getting the details. And it depends on the cash balance at the state level,
Well, it just makes such a huge difference those couple of months for the district on when they can get projects going.
Totally, I agree.
District, have you already done like design with major maintenance and are ready right off the block, or do you still have to do design?
We've got a design. In fact, we've got them kind of just on hold, waiting till we actually have the funds and everything's kind of been assured for them to kind of move forward. But it's probably at an 80% or 85% design, and then we'd be ready to bid.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's an interesting. Can they do that in the summer, or are you going to have it phased?
Well,
Realistically, with our history of general contractors, this portion of the state, it probably could not be done in all one summer.
That's such a huge building though anyway. It's 319,000 square feet or something.
yeah.
And they're talking all of the domestic water lines that are galvanized lines that have pinholes.
Yeah, it's going to be phased, and especially, if we don't have approval till July, you've already lost a month, and so it'll be a great opportunity, but it'll have to be phased probably over 2 years.
Yeah, the earliest the check would be in the bank would be about April 1st. If they did available immediately.
Immediately, yep.
Yeah, so that would be best case scenario. Worst case scenario, if it's funded, would be July 1st of 20.
Well, and then 10 days after that.
And then,
the
yeah.
administration of it,
Yep, good point, Lance. So actually, it's mid to late July would be the normal process.
So we're just going to keep our eye on it. We'll continue doing the few things that we can, but yeah. And it's 2-part component because, doing that, it's also going to meet our other 2, which is replace the ceiling, because they're going to have to tear down a lot of ceilings to get to the domestic water line.
Okay, that sounds good. So one of the things that, this component funding has been debated at the legislative level. How much longer should they do it? Why should they do it? They're trying to increase major maintenance over time, but this is a good opportunity. You can do what you want to do, but I know you have local legislators, and to let them understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're on the list, and make them aware of that 4.725 million, almost 4,726,000 cutoff for your district, at least for number 3 on this list as a potential project. Those are the kind of things that we've improved on to communicate with you, to let you do what you need to do, to do everything you can to help the process along and validate the need for component projects. But that we'll just leave that in your hands.
No, I appreciate that, and I think even based on what we learned from the commission and some of the things that were presented, as you see, we've done a good job with our buildings, but they're getting 30, 35 years old, and so a lot of the HV mechanical stuff is starting to wear out, and it's a lot greater than what our major maintenance can replace, and so this funding is critical to be able to give these buildings that second life.
Well said.
Yep, that is very well said. So anyway, I just said district, you're continuing to maintain your buildings with available major maintenance funds. And the next opportunity will be next year, by the way, if you want to ask for more or re-ask as this goes through the process. If if 17 and 29 don't get funded, you can resubmit them next year, and we'll go through that same process. We do it once a biennium.
Okay.
All right, so now we are at legislative session, and we know that you guys on the education side have a mechanism by which to track bills as they go through and collectively address those issues with the legislature as bills are considered. And we've kind of taken note of that starting last year, and this was Brandon's idea and a great idea. Some of these are covered under your education tracking, but some are not. So he's going to walk through what has been approved this year and how it may impact you.
Real quick, since you were just talking about the importance of that component funding, they did have House Bill 8, which would have increased major maintenance payment to you guys. And unfortunately that died. And I mean, that's why we need that component funding, is because that bill is the second time they ran it and it died both times. And if you're able to get that, you may have enough money to help sustain your maintenance without that supplemental component funding. So if it comes up, maybe help push it through. But House Bill 52, Public Works and Contracts. This bill is related to procurement of FF&E. And if you have any procurement of that coming up, you'd want to make sure your architect specify products that are available from Wyoming vendors. House Bill 65 is procurement amendments, and it increases the dollar values in the statutes to present value of today's dollars. One of them is in the bonding requirements. It went from $7,500 on schools up to $50,000. Hopefully you can get some locals, help get some local contractors some work there. A&E procurement in the SFC policy, it was at $25,000. It also went up to $50,000. In your 21.3.110 statute, bidding was at $25,000. It's now at $50,000, and an advertisement is 2 weeks. Your major maintenance on House Bill 78. This one did pass. They're going to go to a quarterly payment process. Not this year, but next year your payments will be distributed in a quarterly fashion for major maintenance. School finance interfund loans. We have a pullback in COLE's bonus revenue. So House Bill 79 addresses that and allowing the legislature to borrow between different accounts. If you got any civil work coming up this summer, House Bill 152, your civil engineer and or architect want to take a look at this, make sure that the drawings are accurately locate all utilities. I know they have in the past tried that, but the level of detail wasn't at the level they'd like. The penalty is $5,000 now instead of $500. Private schools, they've got one up in Teton County, so this bill was born out of that one, but it's making Senate File 49, giving private schools the same type of facility as public schools. Senate File 57, you guys give public records requests, so they had that going through, so we tracked that one. A little bit of change on deliverables and how that's handled. Senate File 74 is professional service procurement, an attempt to keep state funds spent on Wyoming workers. There's a tiered system on design professionals. So you'd have to make sure that you comply with that one for your major maintenance and any projects you got coming up. And then the last one is House Bill 1, where we got some appropriations. One of them is in Sweetwater, it's a satellite high school. It got roughly $17 million. John C. Schiffer and Sheridan 2 got $8 million. It's an alt school.
44,000.
There was a reappropriation for rural school for a modular. They had some leftover funds from some other projects. So they reappropriated that to take care of this ranch school. We have some charter school leases in Laramie, Wyoming. Albany. Then as the commission always says, they're unanticipated. Security projects, Lance and Paul were discussing. That's the 4.9 that we're going to be going to the commission to discuss the policy of how they'd like to deploy those funds. So you want to be there for that. That's in Buffalo. Major maintenance payment is going to go up a little bit just due to the cost of construction increase. The RS means number went up. So you'll be getting a little bit bigger major maintenance check. And then here in Cheyenne, we have another charter school, and that's a lease payment for that one. So total appropriations is $34.2 million. Any questions on those bills or anything?
Nope.
All righty. So the biennial budget, SFC rules and regulations now require each building to have 3 weighted scores to roll up to a composite score. Condition represents 50% of each building's weighting, capacity 35%, educational suitability 15%. And so just let you know that in the past we've done the capacity by itself list and the condition by itself list. Not to say that may not accompany the final list that rolls them all up together in these weightings. But at any rate, we'll see how that works this year, and it'll be a public process for districts to chime in on as they so desire. Just looking at your building condition and your capacity, I did make a statement here that you have no capital requests for this biennial budget, but let you speak for yourself.
We're fine with that.
Okay. So the last one, I think we talked about this already, and I said that, and then also the filled space and adequacy of filled. So I just said we've addressed this above earlier in the facility plan. Are there other issues or ideas or concerns you have that we haven't discussed that you'd like to discuss now before we close the meeting?
I guess before we close, you know, we've addressed one portion of Evanston Middle School, and that's the roof. We do have another unknown out there, and we're just trying to, I visited with Paul a little bit about this, but trying to kind of figure that out, and that's with the electrical at Evanston Middle School.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to see where that's at.
Specifically the auditorium, right?
Yeah, kind of the auditorium area there. So based on what Paul told me and reaching out to Ace, who was our electrical engineer, I have John's called, and then I've called Monty, and so we're trying to kind of get them to give us at least a starting point so we kind of know where to go. I guess long story short, if we find that this is similar in cost to the roof, which I hope it won't be, would we still have a chance to look at the same funding source?
Yeah, the process would be exactly what we're going through.
Okay.
Do you guys have the plan and documents and all that ready to roll, Lance, like you did on the roof, and then ready to go out, or?
We don't.
We just haven't had the opportunity to get to that point. It's such a specialized equipment system in the auditorium there that John, like they mentioned, John just got a contact with somebody in Cheyenne that is experienced and does this specific type of thing. So we'll just get started down that road right now. It may take a little while before that's ready.
It might be the July or even August meeting. I just wanted to make sure when we get to that point, we'd probably approach it the same way. And so knowing that, that's how I'll work closely with Lance on that, and we'll go through that same process.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. Anything else, district?
How much dollar, what's your gut on the dollar on that one?
I don't even have a gut because we can't even track it down. We've probably right now in just trying to track issues and things that have happened, because we've blown a fire panel washer, we've blown the hoods in the fax room. We had an electrician spend probably close to 3 solid days looking at things. we're probably close to $20,000 in just major maintenance that we've spent just on different things, troubleshooting. And so I'm hoping less than $250,000, but I don't even know where really to shoot from the hip on.
Okay. The reason I just wanted to know is because one, that account is so old, it's running on fumes. And two, we're heading into the next budget session. So in the last one, they said first in, first out, and they're pointing unanticipated. Well, specifically the unanticipated that I mentioned above, they're pointing it to that fund.
Right. And I understand that, and that's why, you know, we're going to try to work as quickly as we can on this.
Okay.
But at the same time, yeah. As soon as we can get some numbers, we'll let Lance know and we'll let you know so that we kind of know where we're at.
Roger that.
Is that a
Appreciate it.
Could be
Both?
both.
Either both?
Either, both, all,
Neither?
neither. It could be neither. Yeah.
Just one second. What you've got written in our notes there is, or in your notes, is that it's the auditorium electrical system, and actually the auditorium electrical system is just part of the problem. I would have to say, from what I've seen in the last 2 years there, that a third of the building's electrical is not correct.
Oh my gosh. How big's that building? Like 50,000?
I think it might be over 50,000.
Yeah, so
58.
58,000.
what's
Is
that?
that building 58 or is it
68. 68 is when the original.
Does what?
I said, does insurance cover that?
No.
Yeah, it could be a lot of money. So yeah, I'd say,
Go get
in
a
the essence of time, put a wiggle on it.
get a home warranty on that building.
Yeah, get all the warranty. Extended warranty.
Yeah.
We could if we
Yeah,
would.
trust me, we would have.
Yeah, it's really been an issue with this, but all indications are it's just in 1/3 of the building where these issues of overpower and spikes are happening. The
Okay.
rest of the building has been working quite well, as a matter of fact.
Well, what I will do in the summary sheet I draft is I think we should point out that I don't want to, we need to be as transparent as possible. Say we have the roof item, here's the cost, we bid it. However, there are additional issues, just so people are aware. And I just want to be upfront with everybody.
And that's why I wanted to bring it up here, just so that in this meeting, everybody's aware we're talking about both the roof and the electrical.
And so just at first glance, if we use the numbers that we came up with our budget, Brandon, of the remaining 13, 14 funds, and
Right.
what we're anticipating this project to be, it looks like there'll be a balance of about 370, say 70,844 left in that. So, you know, it's not a whole bunch, but
It's not, and somebody else could have something pop up that was
Right.
way, I mean, I don't know what's out there, because I didn't know this was out there, so. Yeah, is there anything else on that job? Is that,
Yeah,
well,
sports
we don't know
field,
that.
Yeah,
need a new track?
sports field, yep.
yeah.
Just like the weather, it'll change in about 5 minutes there.
Well, thank you, I appreciate all the detail though.
Yeah, and you know, this just demonstrates the importance of an annual facility plan.
Thank you.
You know, these are the kind of things that we need to work through, and not say you need a formal facility plan to discuss this, but it's a good process, and we appreciate you guys being proactive and just mentioning things and exploring. So that helps a lot. Okay, guys, district, anything else? You good?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Okay, staff, you're good?
Thank you, guys.
Good.
All right, take care, guys. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Love you, bye.